Another week of college football has passed, and we are back for another edition of Locks and Longshots. There's a lot to talk about this week after some very interesting results, some interesting decisions as well. I know we're all pretty excited to dive into it today. But first, gentlemen, how are we doing on this Sunday evening?
Yeah, excited is certainly a word to use there, Thomas. I don't have to get into that part. I'm doing great on this Sunday evening.
Maybe it's better to say we're all pretty passionate.
We're ready to talk about it.
Ready.
We're ready.
How are you doing?
Tired. It's been a long weekend. I got to get up early tomorrow to guest co-host with Paul Siliberto in the wake of, the thing we're going to talk about. Figure that's probably 2 hours of good content. So I'm going to have to try not to use expletives on that, but I can use them here. So we're going to have fun. We're revved up, baby.
Oh, boy.
Josh, how are we doing?
I mean, to be pretty frank, I'm doing okay, I guess. I mean,
I see what you did there.
Every
once in a while, man, you just you let one fly.
Broken clock twice a day. That's how it works. Being in a certain college town this weekend was certainly a choice. But I mean, I was part of history, I guess. So that's something I can say.
Were you the reason that James Franklin got fired? That is
going to be spoilers, man.
Whoa. Who's saying James got fired? We haven't
Who's James Franklin, man?
Yeah, I think if anybody's listening to this at this point, they know.
We didn't even ask how Thomas is doing.
Thomas Ford English is doing today.
I am doing great. It was an interesting weekend to say the least. Yesterday, full of some good games in college football. Other than the result that we're going to talk about, but it was a pretty good day of college football. I mean, there were some really good games on throughout the whole slate. So excited to recap that and get started talking about some the big headlines for this week. But with that, we'll get to some of the results from this past week. In the Big 12, Arizona State, unfortunately, they fell to Utah. That was bad for me. The rest of you guys nailed it on the head. Utah looked pretty good in that game, but Sam Leavitt not there. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Florida couldn't do it for Justin and lost to Texas A&M. A&M continuing to climb in the rankings. They look pretty good. Georgia, the experiment failed. Is that safe to say now, Josh?
Yes. Yeah, he looked terrible.
It didn't fail for the first half.
Right. I mean, Auburn,
until the last 20 seconds.
Auburn. Auburn did put up a decent fight in that game. So Georgia does win. LSU and South Carolina, a game we were split on. LSU got the win. Dylan and I both predicted that one. BYU, a nice win over Arizona, although it went to overtime. That was a tight one that I don't think any of us really expected it to be that close of a game. Michigan, safe to say, I think they look pretty bad against USC. Justin picked Michigan.
Do you guys know how many touchdowns Bryce Underwood is on pace for this year?
Like 4.
10. From a starting quarterback that everyone thinks is great.
Personally, I don't know whoever said that.
I think
can't find them in the room.
Worse than the others.
Look, I picked Michigan too, but oof.
Yeah, it was not a good week for Michigan fans. I know I got a text from a Michigan fan who was not happy and ready for them to fire their coach.
See you, Sharon.
Yeah,
we'll take them. We'll take them.
The Red River rivalry. I got it.
Texas.
Texas looked decent in that win. John Mateer not fully healthy, so I think that could have played a role. But UT getting the dub once again. Ohio State, a nice win over Illinois. You'll see shortly, but I think they're going to consistently be our number one team for the next few weeks. Alabama and Mizzou, a tight game, like I think many of us thought.
Great game.
But just like all Penn State quarterbacks in college football, Bo Prabula, late game interception to seal it. Mizzou did have a chance in that game.
Once a Penn State quarterback, always a Penn State quarterback.
I mean, a 4th down decision to try to go for a fake punt for Mizzou. And Alabama, Ty Simpson, I mean, he's got to be your Heisman favorite right now, I would think. So Mizzou does not get the win for Josh, but Alabama gets the win. And then I think the biggest game of the week and maybe super impactful for the college football playoff, Indiana. I mean, if you didn't think Indiana was legit before, you better start thinking it now. And their quarterback for Mendoza is he's dominating out there. Justin, correctly picking the Hoosiers. I think the rest of us thought
Can you
Oregon
say
had
that once
home
more?
field advantage.
Can you say that once more?
Justin correctly picking the Hoosiers.
Thank you.
There we go. Yeah. So, I mean, that was a big game.
Is that 3 straight weeks I've gotten an island pick right on my own?
I think so.
Because I got Oregon over Penn State.
Yeah.
I got Florida over Texas. And then this week.
Yeah. Hey.
What do you say? The island boy.
So that is your
the singular island boy.
That's your week 7 recap for last week. There's a lot of headlines to talk about.
Just pull the Band-Aid off. Let's do it.
Yeah, there's one headline which I think, in all of college football right now, regardless of who you're rooting for, is really big. And that is James Franklin is no longer the head coach at Penn State. And yeah, let's be frank. It was time. I think all of us can agree with that as 4 Penn State graduates. Give a lot of, do want to give the flowers to James Franklin. I mean, he did a lot for the program. Obviously, I believe he's the second winningest coach. Obviously, Joe Paterno still in front. But, there's a lot to talk about here. First, I just want to get kind of your guys' initial reactions when you heard the news of James Franklin being fired. Dylan, we'll start with you.
This one really hits home, and I think I was a little bit more emotional about both Franklin and then even Aller going out for the season, likely ending his college career. I know when we talk about our fandoms and our history with college sports, I'm the one who's been the longest Penn State fan. I kind of started following the team fresh out of the sanctions and watched Franklin rebuild a program. He didn't just, take and give Bill O'Brien a lot of credit for kind of biding the time in between and doing a heck of a job before he went to the pros. But Franklin really built this thing from the ground up in his image, and he worked his ass off. He worked his ass off to get the resources necessary to be on the same page with the athletic department, with the university. He recruits maybe amongst the top 10 in the country. He is truly one of the best recruiters. And I want to say this too, as sad as it is, we definitely timed our graduation well, because everything has gone to hell in a handbasket since we left with Penn State athletics, except Captain McKenna and Penn State hockey. But the other thing is that I think you do have to recognize the fact that everything that Franklin did and the fact that he's going to go somewhere else. And James Franklin's coaching career is not done. James Franklin will get a coaching job probably within a couple months. And I think there's a good chance it's at an SEC program. It's either one that is not open yet out there in Gainesville, or it could be saying Woo Pig Suey down there in Arkansas. So there's already 2 teams that I think would kill for the consistency and the stability. But sometimes things run their course. Sometimes you take things as far as you can take them. And I think the best take I've heard on this is one I'm going to regurgitate. I think this team was too focused all offseason on that first game against the Ducks. That's the first game. The season started against Oregon. And I think from the spring to again against Oregon 2 weeks ago, they were solely and pretty much primarily focused on the Ducks and getting the monkey off Franklin's back, finally winning a big game, finally quieting the doubters. This is our national championship year. It starts in a whiteout. How long have they been clamoring for a night whiteout against a big team? Hasn't happened since Auburn, really since Michigan. Everything was put into this game. And when they lost, Franklin looked visibly emotionally dejected when he walked off the field. He stood there for a while, taking it all in. And then I think this was a team that was just caught by surprise by UCLA. And it's just a staple of Franklin because they've always played down to their competition. And then when you talk about what they've done in regards to, unless they're playing, FCS schools, but when you talk about the rebounding after a loss, it's always been a struggle for Franklin. Never has it spiraled like this. And I think it just illuminated a much larger issue that Franklin has taken the team and the program as far as he can. So unfortunately, it's sad. You have to recognize all the incredible work he did. But you're talking about a coach who was clearly dejected after that loss, that he put a lot of stock in, and a program that was never the same after the loss to Oregon. And then specifically after the loss to UCLA. And this 14 days, really 3 weeks or 3 game stretch here, we will always remember it as the, all the hype, all the pomp, all the circumstance to quickly, it went from watching a party to watching a funeral. So,
yeah. And I think a lot of people are pointing to that end of that Oregon game, a couple of calls late that could have gone either way. But yeah, lost to UCLA and this past week lost to Northwestern. You could kind of sense the end was coming. Justin, we'll get your thoughts now.
Yeah, you could sense the end was coming, but it's certainly hard to see or really to fathom that this is the way it ends. This is a guy that had his team a couple minutes away, one potential drive that got ended on an interception away from playing for the national championship in January. And we're sitting here in October, month 10 of the year, and he's gone. 6 weeks into the season, 0-3 in Big Ten play. I mean, sure, it certainly is felt after every big game over the last couple of years of maybe it's time to just move on. If he's never going to be able to get the hump, let's move on and see, can we get over the hump with somebody? And it certainly felt that way. Like Dylan said, that Oregon game, it was make or break their season right there. And I don't think when I say break, we expected it to break the season like this. And have, 3 weeks later, 2 weeks later, we're sitting here talking about him being fired. But it certainly was make or break. And if they won that game, you're looking at a trajectory that has Penn State getting more 4 and 5 stars right off the bat, right from that game alone, because there were so many in attendance. And you talk about, going to UCLA, probably winning, beating Northwestern, and setting up another top matchup with Ohio State here in 3 weeks. And instead, it went as complete opposite, the polar opposite, in the fact that you lose that game. It snowballs to a loss where they just looked unmotivated against UCLA, and a loss against Northwestern that I think the same story could be said. They looked, just dejected and like their season was over. And let's be real, if they beat Northwestern, if they won out, beat Indiana and Ohio State on the way to, a 10-2 season, they're going back to the playoffs. But they never believed in that, and that was clear on the field. And it's weird to think, because these guys are pouring out their love for James on social media and whatnot, but there was clearly some disconnect in the locker room following that Oregon loss. And maybe it's just because everyone was like, this was our year, we had that win, but it clearly didn't work out. And I think my only other point on this part of it is the timing. I texted you guys last night. Does it make more sense to keep James around till the end of the year? Let him go out on better terms, right? Where he takes a job in Gainesville or in Arkansas and goes out on his own terms. It's also a cheaper option for Penn State. Not that we care about the money, but we damn well know, Pat Kraft, Neely Bendapudi, the board of trustees, they do care about that money, especially when you got a $750 million stadium renovation ongoing right now. But, and you look at the transfer portal opening a 30-day window today, and doing this before National Signing Day means you might not even have a recruiting class come December if you don't have your head coach in waiting at that point. So it's really that timeline. But at the end of the day, it's the move that had to be made. It's the move that, as Dylan said, did Penn State get to the point where they were capped out under Franklin last year? It's the move that, we like to point to on our other podcast, Dylan and I, with the Knicks moving on from Tom Thibodeau, thinking that's as far as he could get them. The Yankees going from Buck Showalter to Joe Torre, and that worked out for them very well. It's those types of moves, and I know they happen all around the country. It just feels so unceremonious that this is the way James Franklin leaves Penn State, because, like Dylan said, he took Penn State from a team facing sanctions to a team that's become a formidable 10-win team in college football, one of the best atmospheres in all of college football, getting top recruiting classes every year from a team that had nothing. And again, like Dylan said, credit to Bill O'Brien to start that. But Bill O'Brien just did, enough to hold them over till their next coach came. And James Franklin took this from a, group of guys to a football program, I think is the way to put it. And now it's interesting to see where it goes. And I know we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I think, make or break it was a perfect way to come into this year, or to put it for Penn State coming into this year. I mean, at the end of the day, James Franklin had a team in position as the number 2 preseason team in the country, and expectations and, all sorts of things that go on. They were focused on the Oregon game. I 100% agree, Dylan. And, that was the make it or break it game. But I think a lot of us, and I think we touched on it when we talked about that Penn State Oregon game, a loss to Oregon wasn't the end of the year, because you could still go into the playoff, like you said, Justin, with 2 losses. I mean, it's definitely gettable, especially because you would have had, Ohio State still on your schedule. You can get a big win there. So I think make or break it was perfect, and I completely agree. It seemed like once that Oregon loss happened, it was going to be, a snowball downhill that was not going to be in the right direction for Penn State. So, Josh, we'll get your thoughts now on the move for Penn State to get rid of James Franklin.
Yeah, we were talking about it a little bit before we went live, but I mean, I think the person that the Oregon game broke the most was James Franklin. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, how starstruck he looked after the game, just kind of staring off into space. Happened a week later against UCLA, happened this past weekend against Northwestern. And this is a guy in James Franklin after these losses, like he normally, has. I mean, it's the same spiel over and over again, credit where credit's due, blah, blah, blah. But you could tell after the UCLA loss, even going into that game, not the same sort of motivation, the same sort of style and preparation in his press conferences as we're used to. And it kind of felt like he was getting coddled a little bit in the sense that people kind of were like, all right, well, we know that like he's halfway out the door. And it is tough to see because, I mean, this is a guy, James Franklin, like we've talked about. I mean, you cannot understate what he did for this Penn State program that was dead in the water with the sanctions. He brought them back. Obviously, that big win in 2016 was the big one. But at the same time, I mean, you can't go 1-15 against top 5 opponents as a head coach for a program that, back in 2017, you said you're a good program. You want to be great. You haven't taken that step that you said you're going to take it now almost 9 years ago. And you still haven't done what you said you were going to do year in, year out, especially coming into this year. You praised the personnel, both on the field and the coordinators and the coaches and everything within the team. You praised them as being the best you ever had. And you flat out laid a goose egg the entire season. And you can't come back on that. You can't step back on it. And obviously the fan base, I think the fan base was very distraught after Oregon. I don't think they were really necessarily turning on James Franklin until that UCLA game happened. And then this past weekend, before they even took the field, it was more so. I think there might have been more people in that stadium praying that Franklin lost that game versus won, because I think they were that fed up. And I think it got to a boiling point, especially a year like this year. You brought back so many guys from the year past. You're the oldest roster, the most veteran roster in college football, and they've looked like one of the worst teams. So it's just he took them as far as they could get them. I think that was obvious last year. They were a late game interception away from playing in the national championship. Who knows if they would have won against Ohio State? Tough to say, but it just shows how difficult it is to get back to that stage. But for Penn State, I think they've realized that to even be in the conversation for getting back to that stage, they have to switch things up because it's been the same narrative for 10 plus years now.
Yeah, I think all of us can agree on that. One thing I want to say is, the Penn State fan base, I mean, during the Joe Paterno era, they were spoiled. I mean, they had constant winning. I mean, I think people are expecting so much from whoever's the coach, whether it was James Franklin, Joe Paterno, things like that. But even moving to the future, and we'll talk about that, here shortly, but it's never going to be less. Like, the expectations for Penn State football are never going to be less than its championship or bust. Like, you go into last year and Penn State fans are saying, we just want to make the college football playoff, right? And then they make it. They win the Fiesta Bowl. They lose, like Josh said, on a late game interception in the Orange Bowl. But, like, they made the national semifinals. And for Penn State fans, that's not good enough. And I think that's where I think fans need to be a little less harsh on James Franklin, because at the end of the day, the guy's a good coach. Like, don't get me wrong. He made some questionable decisions. He has not shown that he can win top 10, top matchups. But I think we're putting too much stock in the fact that for a Penn State program, a 10-2 season is not good enough. And I think that's where I encourage Penn State fans to, appreciate what James Franklin brought to the program. And especially in the last few years where, yes, they have gotten the neat wins necessary, but they did not get that signature win. But I think that, the way that James Franklin has turned around the program, I know we talked about it, but also the way that he has developed some very good players. Like, it's been a problem for James Franklin with developing certain positions. But he just had a high draft pick in Abdul Carter. He had Micah Parsons. Like, he has had very good players come into that program. He's changed the landscape of Penn State football. And I think fans at Penn State need to be a little more mindful of how they're reacting to this news, because you have to be prepared here for some rough seasons potentially. I know
there's 134 teams in the FBS right now, and Penn State was consistently a top 15 team under James Franklin. And I know the next sentence that's going to come out of your mouth is you have to be prepared for a couple of years of mediocre at best football, potentially.
Yeah,
and it depends on the coaching hire.
You don't want to prepare for it, but you have to expect it might happen. I think might be the better terms to put.
I think there are people that are looking at like a Kirk Cignetti, the situation that he put himself in Indiana, and
not going to happen everywhere.
Be the end all be all. That's not exactly what's going to happen. Kirk Cignetti is a diamond in the rough. He's like the Josh Allen of coaching hires.
I thought you were going to say the Josh Bartosik of coaching.
No, I would have respected that. That was a good line, man.
That brings me to the next part that I think we should talk about, and it's obviously who is going to replace James Franklin. And I think there's going to be more options the longer they wait, because you could be some potential firings in the next couple of weeks, even from other universities. I know that we're talking about Florida, potentially a team like Florida State. Justin mentioned before we started. I know Michigan fans want their coach out of there, but I think it's interesting to note that, like Josh said, that this is not going to be, it could be, but it is most likely not going to be a Kurt Cignetti, let's get in 1 year, let's go undefeated in the regular season thing. Like, there could be some 7-5 seasons. There could, 8-4. Like, I'm not saying they're going to be 3-9. Like, they're not, it's not, they still are going to be talent, because it's a Penn State program that has the history, has the tradition, like, has the notability. But I think the hire, and this will kind of lead into kind of launching off on who we think is going to be. I think the hire has to be somebody that Penn State fans will get behind. And I think that's the forefront, because Penn State fans, as you know, they don't care how much you win. They care what games you win. And I think that's important to note. So with that, Dylan, we'll start with you on who you would like to see, who you think is realistic, maybe who you think would be the ideal candidate for Penn State's next head coach.
If you watch us on YouTube, you saw me kind of cringing when you guys were talking about the rebuild, because I remember back when, not that this was that long ago, but when the McSorley era ended, it was kind of, okay, who takes the baton from here? And it doesn't seem like this sophomore and Sean Clifford's really going to move the needle, but hey, he did a hell of a job for the program over a span of a couple of years, building them into that perennial contender. And then now it's, I have to tell you, like, in my stomach, I feel good. I think they made the right choice. In the end of the day, I do think Pat Kraft and the athletics department and the university, they're finally aligned on their value for football. This isn't Sandy Barber and Eric Barron anymore. This is a new age leadership team. And I do think they've got their head on their shoulders. If the board of trustees doesn't get in their way, and I'm not talking about the entire board, but certain members of the board stop trying to cling to the old days and get out of their way, then they really will be able to make a potential franchise or program changing, franchise changing, altering hire. And we'll find out, is the grass greener? And the same thing applies for Franklin. He's going to go somewhere else. He's going to find out if the grass is greener somewhere else with the support and the resources, because he got everything he asked for, which leads me to my point of, you have all the money you want to play with right now. I know that you have a big ass stadium that you were investing a lot of money into renovating. I know that you just signed also, though, a big deal with Adidas, and you got a lot of donors that are around. And you have donors who might not have, I think Josh brought this point up last night in our chat about, there might have been donors that, look at Terry Pagula, what he was doing. He might not have been investing in football. Maybe all of a sudden we see a little bit come over to hire a good coach. So I think we're going to find out how committed they really are. What I say about the board of trustees thing, though, is I like Matt Rule. Of the four of us, I'm the one who is pretty much in favor of Matt Rule as a coach. Do I think he's the right coach at the right time for Penn State? No, I don't. I think he's the guy you hire to rebuild a program, not to take it to another level. And so when it comes to Matt Rule, the trustees need to not be so caught up on he's a Penn Stater, he coached at Penn State, he played at Penn State under Paterno, he knows what we need to be. Yeah, I love Matt Rule as a person, I love Matt Rule as a coach, but you're talking about going from a guy who rebuilt the program, as we just gave him his flowers for, to the next level. Right now, Rule is still finishing out a rebuild in Lincoln, Nebraska that's not even close to being done yet. He's doing what Franklin did there because they fired a coach who was consistent and were in disarray for years and years and years after. So Rule's the guy you do to rebuild a program, and then my cringing would actually come to fruition, because it would get ugly, and it would get ugly fast for a couple years, because there aren't a ton of guys who probably are going to be moved by that move, other than Penn Staters, guys in the old days who want to Letterman back in there. I don't really care about that, to be quite frank. And so Franklin, I'd steal your line, Josh. I want a needle mover. I don't know if it's Cignetti. I highly doubt it's Cignetti. I highly doubt it's a Lane Kiffin. I highly doubt it's, one of these guys that are fan favorites for a lot of Penn State fans. But I do think it could be a big move. I do think, we're talking legitimately about Urban Meyer, John Gruden. We're talking about maybe a coach from another program that we're not even expecting. Justin and I were hypothesizing before. Eli Drinkwitz. You talk about how maybe there's a chance you can poach a Steve Sarkisian, but then you talk about some of the programs that you consider a tier below. I think of a Jed Fish. I think of a Mike Elko. I think of guys who maybe Mike Elko has got Texas A&M where they want him, and that's a job you stay at forever, but he's an East Coast guy. Maybe you can pry him away. I even go back to a potential retread who's done a hell of a job with a non-power forward, Dan Mullen. Mullen's a good option. He's a Pennsylvania guy. So there's a lot of guys that I think are being talked about and a lot that aren't. For me, I want him to take a swing. I would love a Lane Kiffin type. I don't want really a coordinator. I think you have to get a head coach from another program with how many recruits and players you're going to lose from the portal that were here because of Franklin. And a lot of guys are here because of Franklin. So if I had gun to my head right now, I think they'll probably hire Matt Rule. But what I would love, what I would want, what I would hope is that I keep coming back to the example, but a true Lane Kiffin type who can elevate this program to the next upper echelon and give him some swagger, give him some moxie.
Yeah, I think some all good points there made. Obviously, Matt Rule has the Penn State connection, so he would obviously be the top if you're looking at a guy who knows Penn State football and knows the history, knows the program, the tradition, things like that. I mean, just look at what Pat Kraft did with the basketball, hiring Mike Rhodes, a guy who has PA roots, who knows Penn State tradition and things like that. So definitely, I think Matt Rule could be a good option. I like the other names that you mentioned for sure. I think this is an interesting time to be in the head coaching market because you have the transfer portal where it is right now, where, you look at a team who brings in a ton of transfers and they're playing well this year. So I think you look at Penn State fans and thinking about, we're going to be bad for the next few years, but you have to think with the transfer portal, with coaches bringing over their guys, this head coach hire is going to be significant. And Justin, I think when we look at this, it's hit or miss right now. I think Dylan said it perfectly. You have to nail this hire for your program's future.
You don't fire James Franklin and don't take a swing, right? You're already taking a swing by firing Franklin, a guy that's won 10 games, 5 or 6 times since he got to Penn State 12 years ago. That's a swing in itself because this could backfire. Producer Jesse of the Josh Pate show, Jesse Myers, a Penn State grad, he posted earlier today about how Florida fired a couple years ago Dan Mullen, a coach that got them to 10+ wins. And then he had a decent year at 8-4, followed by a bad year at 6-7, and they fired him. And Florida has not been back to 10 wins under Billy Napier. So they took that swing with a guy like Dan Mullen who had gotten them to 10 wins, and they missed with Billy Napier. And we're sitting here, Billy Napier will likely be available in a couple of weeks, if not a couple months, right? So for Pat Kraft to take this swing, he's got to take another swing. Dylan was right. You have to. And I'm here to tell the Penn State fan base to get the top 3 candidates out of your head. I'm here to tell you Matt Rule, Kirk Cignetti, and Manny Diaz are not the guys you should be looking at. Look, I don't like Kirk Cignetti. I like what Kirk Cignetti has done, but I'm just going to be real with you. I'm going to be frank, or not frank, because he's no longer here at Penn State. I'm going to tell you that Kirk Cignetti is making a lot of money, and it will be tough to outpay what Indiana will be willing to pay him for what he's already done. I believe I closed the tab, so I don't know what it is. I thought it was $8 million a year. Yeah, it's $8 million plus incentives right now for Kirk Cignetti. You are paying James the rest of his contract, almost $50 million, and you are going to have to outpay Indiana to get Kirk Cignetti. You are talking $10, $11, $12, $13 million for Kirk Cignetti at 63 years old. I'm not sure that happens. I don't think it's a good move for this program. And he could lead you to wins in next year. But this is a team that doesn't look like it's destined to win next year. 2026 was always supposed to be its bad year following 2025. Clearly, things have shifted. Matt Rule, I go to him next. And I simply ask, what is the appeal of a guy that might be worse than James Franklin. Let's take a look at Matt Rule. 2-22 against AP top 22 or top 25 teams in the country. 2-22. He is 0 for 11 against top 10 teams. This is the stuff that they fired James Franklin for. And you think Matt Rule, because he's a Penn Stater, a guy that played under Paterno, you think he's going to come in and change this? He's not. He's going to make this program go a couple steps backwards. I don't care about his ties. I don't. And I don't care that it's going to be cheaper than most options because of those ties and because he knows Pat Kraft because they were at BC together. I don't care about that crap. Matt Rule is not the guy for this job. He is worse, and at his best, he is equal to James Franklin. You did not take this swing by firing Franklin to hire a guy that is a step below James Franklin. Same thing can be said about Manny Diaz. Manny Diaz failed at Miami. That's the reason he came to Penn State in the first place, to be the defensive coordinator. Sure, he did pretty good in his first year with Duke, and he's backed it up with a solid start his second year. He is yet to show that he can build a program or keep a program going. Those are the three options that have been floated on Twitter the most. And I think all three of those options should be crossed out. I don't like any of them. I don't think they move the needle past James Franklin. And quite frankly, I think we would see one of those three end up with worse records, or any of those three, maybe without Cignetti, maybe, I don't know, with a worse record than James. And I truly believe that. And I think we'd be back here, hopefully still doing this podcast in 4 or 5 years and probably having the same conversation about where Penn State goes. Those aren't the guys. I like what Dylan said. I'm not going to name specifics because I don't know what all the contracts look like with all these guys. But Drinkwitz, Kiffin, those types of guys. I'm not saying it's one of those guys, but somebody like that. Somebody who's shown they can not only build a program back up, but can keep a program at a high level. That's where Penn State has to go. They have to take a swing that nobody's expecting. Everyone's expecting Matt Rule. Everyone's expecting a phone call to Kirk Cignetti. Everyone's expecting an interview for Manny Diaz. You have to go in a completely different direction and do something that actually puts Penn State past James Franklin. Because James Franklin, I think most people would agree, over his 12 years at Penn State, he has put himself into the top 20 head coaches in college football right now. You have to hire then somebody in the top 15, the top 10. You're probably not getting a top 5 coach away from its program, but you guys get the point. You need to go up a tier in your head coach, not go down and not stay even. That's why they fired James, and that's what they're doing by paying $50 million for this guy to sit on his couch and then go coach another team. Virginia Tech is my hopeful pick for James Franklin. But that's it. That's what I got here. I think these options are kind of dumb. I think Pat Kraft's got to go take any ties to Penn State, throw them aside. Take any ties to the state of Pennsylvania, throw them aside. Take any ties to Pat Kraft and his previous stops and throw them aside. And I just want to correct myself. I said Matt Rule at Boston College earlier. That was at Temple with Pat Kraft. Throw all those connections aside and find the best damn football coach.
I think it's interesting that you say, James Franklin, top 20 coach. I think we can all agree with that. And you want to get a top 15 guy. I think a lot of fans would say, well, that's the problem is all the top 15 guys aren't wanting to leave. Well, I think that's right. I think that's exactly what Penn State's trying to do, though. Like, if you're not going to hire a top 15 guy, you need to hire a guy that's top 25, top 30 that you think could become a top 15 guy. That's the biggest
key. A rising
key.
Guy like Alex Golish, right?
Right.
Who might right now be looked at as a top 35 or top 30 coach, but clearly he's on the rise in his career and could become a top 20, top 15. And that's a big swing to still take.
That's a big risk.
And with the way all of our baseball teams have gone, the Yankees, the Cubs, and the Pirates, we're used to swings and misses. So it doesn't give me much hope.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. And I think one thing that I want to say, and we'll get to Josh here in a couple seconds, but Penn State needs to look at all options. I know we've all named pretty much Power 4 conference coaches, and I think Dylan named a couple of retired coaches as well, John Gruden, Urban Meyer. But I think they,
Nick Saban.
look at coaches outside the Power Four too. Like there are clearly some good ones there. So I think that's important to take in all the options. I completely agree, Justin. I think that was the perfect statement is they got to look for somebody who doesn't just fit what they need. Like they need somebody who is going to like take them higher. Like
they need someone to be different.
Right.
Dylan and I were on the phone
earlier.
earlier.
Bold, different, and aggressive.
Yes,
we need
bold, different, and aggressive, which Mike Rhodes hasn't put it under the Penn State basketball team. But they need that. Dylan and I were on the phone earlier, and he goes, need somebody that will go at a player on the sideline, either in a good way or a bad way, right? That changes that because James on the sideline, his demeanor always went towards like the officials. It never seemed, at least, that it was going to the players. You need somebody that can fire those guys up.
He's a player's coach. That's why all the players are brokenhearted right now.
When you
need a Dan Lanning who will go off on anyone.
When you look at those big games, and I'm talking Notre Dame last year, Oregon this year, Drew Aller throws an interception. And I know it's late game, the clock's about to expire, things like that, and maybe James is being a little bit hard. But James needs to go up to him and say, "Hey, this is what you should have done. Like this is, like correct him in the moment." Instead, James Franklin's just going up, kind of, patting his back, saying, "Oh, you'll get it next time."
We'll take a look at it on film this week, and we'll correct our mistakes. Obviously, we deserve, Northwestern deserves a lot of credit.
Right.
He said that quote verbatim.
It needs to be a coach that's going to be bold and everything. So, Josh, let's get your reactions real quick, and then we're already 35 minutes in, so we'll get your.
We knew this was happening, though.
Yeah, we'll get your thoughts, and then we'll move on.
I guess the big news. I mean, I agree. Like you have to make a swing, but it has to be a calculated swing. I think Golish eventually will become a great Power 4 football coach. I don't know if you can take him from USF to go to Penn State with the amount of pressure that is going to be on whoever the next football coach is for Penn State, and there's going to be an absurd amount of pressure. I don't like Matt Rule. I agree with Justin. You need somebody that has proven that they can win against these top 25 teams, not even in like a consistent manner, but not in the same realm as James Franklin. 2-22 is just as bad, if not worse, than James Franklin's 1-15 at Penn State. I look at a guy out west like Kenny Dillingham. He also was a guy that used to work at Oregon, very offensive-minded head coach, has done a fantastic job for Arizona State, 4-6 in his career against top 25 opponents. Realistically should have beaten Texas last year in the college football quarterfinal, but they decided to blitz on a 3rd and 25 in overtime. But he's a young guy, fires his team up. I mean, we saw it last year, went viral for, joining the students and rushing the field after his interview. He's a guy. You want a guy that is kind of, maybe not exactly a big flashy guy, but he's done the due diligence on building a program. I'm a big fan of Brent Key at Georgia Tech. I'm not sure how he would transfer over to a Big Ten school. He is a fantastic coach against top 25 teams. He plays up to his competition. His knack is he plays down to his lesser opponents, which Penn State has done, but he always finds a way to win those big games. I mean, Georgia Tech has been on the winning side of a ranked upset in each of the last 4 seasons ever since Brent Key's been there. And he's built that program up and has become a damn good recruiter at the same time. So I think a guy like Dillingham, I mean, Will Stein, I know that you talked about him a little bit, Dylan, off air. I mean, anybody with an Oregon connection feels good for a team that is so offensive-minded, and Penn State needs to find a way to get their offense any sort of life. Dillingham would be my pick for a guy that has turned a program around, like Arizona State, or a guy like Brent Key. If you want a guy that, is a player's coach, is very motivated, but isn't exactly a flashy pick, but will get the job done. I think he's a sneaky good guy, but I think Dillingham is my top pick for a guy that is young, can be here for a long time, and clearly cares about the players that he coaches and is not afraid to, give them a hard lashing if they need it. So I think you got to find somebody like you guys mentioned. I mean, tons of passion, not afraid to get in anybody's face, but it has to be calculated. And I think Penn State makes this decision getting rid of James Franklin, obviously knowing that they have a list of top guys, not just the names that are floating around in their back pocket. They're not going to make this decision and then all of a sudden be like, okay, well, now what do we do? They have people, I think, lined up. And I think for all of us on this podcast, we're hoping that it's not just the guys that are the top 3 floating around, because it's going to be a long offseason and a long next however long that contract is for the Penn State football team if they hire one of those 3 coaches.
Couple other names I think we should throw. Mike Norvell at Florida State could be one. Maybe a Matt Campbell from Iowa State. I saw a couple of articles on him. That could be an interesting hire, and I feel like that would fit the mold that Penn State
Save him for my Jets.
Yeah, there you go. But definitely a big,
Guys,
big
why haven't we
decision.
mentioned Dion?
Well, because Dion didn't know that there was a fine for storming the field. Did you see him find that out? Did you see he was going to
That's why I don't want Matt
students to chip
Campbell,
in?
because he just lost to Dion.
If you thought your tuition was already too high at Penn State, Deion Sanders would want you to pay for storming the field. So,
you know,
I'm not sure about that one.
I would pay extra tuition if we got to storm a field in our 4 years there, but we didn't. So guess what?
We got close.
This is why we've just talked for 40 minutes about the coach being fired.
But Deion might give an arm and a toe for the program.
I also
make fun of his toes.
Dude,
no, I like Deion Sanders. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, that was a big win this weekend for Prime. But that is going to conclude our talk on this, because I think it's, we went 40 minutes on it. I think it's important to talk about it. Obviously, the biggest headline in college football, I think, from this weekend is that, despite a lot of good games this weekend. But with that, we'll look at our top 25 poll, because obviously there were other results other than Penn State and Northwestern.
Get that smirk off your face, Bryce.
Yeah, this has gotten very exciting in the past couple of weeks. So I'll run through it real quick. Ohio State and Miami, they remain our top 2. Indiana, all the way up to number 3. I believe they're also number 3 in the AP poll as well. Texas A&M and Alabama right there. Ole Miss at 6. Texas Tech. There's Oregon at 8. Georgia at 9. Oklahoma at 10. Then you have LSU, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, Notre Dame, BYU. All teams that kind of moved up this week. And then you have Missouri, Vanderbilt, Virginia, USC, USF. And that's followed by Memphis, Utah back in the poll, Cincinnati, Nebraska, and Texas back ranked in our poll. Justin, you're at the top of my screen, so we'll start with you. What stands out here this week?
Yeah, I mean, clearly we were wrong when saying that Ohio State, Miami, and Oregon were the 3 teams that we thought, were national champion contenders. And I'd like to argue here that Alabama is a better team than Texas A&M, and Alabama is a better team than Indiana, and Alabama is a better team than Miami. I personally think that. I didn't put it in my poll because they have not backed that just yet. Here in the next couple of weeks, I think Alabama backs that. I also think 3 of the 4 teams in the top 4 are probably losing a game in the next few weeks. I think the only one I could see staying undefeated at the moment is Ohio State, but I've been wrong before. So
several times, yes. Yeah,
several times. Probably more than I want to. But I think just kind of how things are changing so quick. And we thought after that Penn State Oregon week, I think the big talk going into that week was, oh my God, Justin, you have Penn State so low. And I was right. And I think after that week, we were saying, well, it all sorted itself out. It just keeps getting more like convoluted and more confusing than it is getting sorted out at this point. And honestly, there's a case that I could make that number 19 USC could beat number 6 Ole Miss right now. And I think that's just how crazy this field is, that right now, the thing I'm taking out of this is I've got Ohio State and I've got Alabama as my 2 teams that I would lock into the playoffs right now. That's the only thing I can talk about from our top 25.
I want to further that. I want to put Indiana in that category because
until they lose to Penn State, because Penn State is hungry.
Listen, I want to talk about Indiana at number 3, and then we'll go to Josh, because I know Dylan has some things that he may want to bring up to end this off. So, but the one thing I want to say, and I think you just mentioned it, you think Ohio State, I just want to clarify, will be the only ranked undefeated team possibly this year. Is that correct, Justin?
That is correct. And I said that in the beginning of the year too.
Right. I think so. I think Indiana could be undefeated as well. I mean, let's look at the rest of their schedule. Michigan State at home, they win that. UCLA at home, they win that. Maryland on the road. Maryland has looked good this year, but Washington beat Maryland at home or on the road. I think Indiana will beat Maryland. Then you have Penn State. Obviously, not the same Penn State team we thought that would be playing Indiana this year. I think Indiana can easily win that game. Even if they don't, that's only 1 loss. Then you have Wisconsin at home and Purdue on the road. Obviously, very winnable games for Indiana. I think this could be a one-loss or an undefeated Indiana team pretty easily. And at that point, even with one loss, I'm locking Indiana into the college football playoff. And I don't see, and maybe, Justin, you have a different opinion, I don't see a team on that schedule that I just named that really scares me to add a maybe, the first or second loss to Indiana and knock them out of the college football playoff.
Yeah, I do think they have the benefit of an easy schedule the rest of the way. And I guess just like last year, we'll see what that does for them if they get into the college football playoffs. It just feels to me that this is a team that isn't used to this success. And I know this is not a way that you should judge a team and if they're going to go undefeated, but it feels like somewhere they're due for a trap game. We all know that Penn State is a better team talent-wise than a 3-3 record. This UCLA team is playing better than the 2-4 record they have, right? I think you said Maryland's thrown in there too. Was that right? Maryland's on their roster.
Maryland, Maryland the first of November.
Maryland's team kind of is iffy, but they got a really good quarterback that if he does, flash in that game, you don't know what happens. I just see somewhere they're going to get eaten up. I think they make the college football playoff, but I see Indiana being that team that finds, let somebody get a fluky win somewhere on their schedule. Again, all Cignetti does is win, so I'll probably be eating my words here. But at the end of the day, I think Ohio State and Alabama are the two that I would just say the rest of the season. And Alabama's got a tough schedule. But at the end of it, I just think they've got the most. I guess what I'm really saying is those are the two most talented teams in college football, Ohio State and Bama. And maybe I shouldn't discredit Indiana and say they're going to lose because I don't think they're as talented, but I do think they're going to lose somewhere.
Indiana has the fourth best chance per the ESPN College Football Power Index to win out this year at 25.4%. The teams above them, Miami at 29.6%. Ohio State, our number one team, at 35.6%. And then a team that I think we'll talk about a little bit later, but Notre Dame at 48.7% chance to win out the remainder of the year. Josh, we'll go to you. What stands out in this top 25?
Yeah, I think I know there were a couple of weeks that I was the only one that was ranking teams like USF, and I know that in the beginning of the year, Dylan was one of the few people ranking USC, but those were teams, and a team like Utah too, that I think we were really underrating, despite the fact that these are some damn good one-loss teams that probably should be, ranked a little bit higher than some of these other teams. I mean, I wouldn't put them ahead of a Notre Dame or a team like that, but I think for a good chunk of this, we did a pretty solid job. I'm not super sold on Texas being back in the top 25 because they beat an injured John Mateer after really struggling throughout the rest of their season. I think it's similar to how Penn State still received votes before the Northwestern game. I think it's based on, name and prestige alone is the reason that they're getting votes. But I think the rest of the top 10 is very solid. I think not enough people are talking about Texas Tech. This is a team in Texas Tech that is not only winning all of their games, but winning by 20-plus points each week in a dominating fashion. I think that they look better than Ole Miss definitely did last week. I had them in my poll at 6. I had them ahead of Bama, and I had them right behind Ole Miss just because I think Ole Miss's wins earlier were a little bit better. But I think that overall our poll is pretty solid. I don't see Indiana losing a game the rest of this year. I think last year was that really year where everyone was saying, okay, Indiana's schedule was pretty weak, and that's why they went 11-1. The only real tough test they had was Ohio State, and they lost. They had their toughest test. You can't sit there and say going on the road to Autzen Stadium is not a tough test. That's a really good Oregon squad. Yeah, the win over Penn State looks much worse now, but I think we can all agree that Oregon broke that Penn State team. They went on the road. They won in a tough environment. And then Indiana did that exact same thing and kind of dominated really for a good portion of that game until Mendoza threw a pick 6 to tie it late. And they still came back and won by 2 scores. So I think Indiana is very easily one of the top 3 teams in the country. I think I put them at 2 in my poll ahead of Miami. I like their win over Oregon that much that I put them at 2 ahead of Miami.
I completely agree. I think when we look at it, I could safely say I think none of us thought that the Big Ten, if they had two teams inside the top three, that Indiana would be one of them. I think a lot of us would have had Penn State. A lot of us would have had Oregon, in addition to Ohio State. So give a lot of credit to Curt Cignetti and his team, although I'm sure Dylan doesn't want to. But what I want to point out from this is the resurgence of Alabama. And I think Justin nailed on the head. I think Alabama, I still think Miami has the edge right now. But I would put Alabama right up there with Ohio State and Miami. Ty Simpson has really shown that he can mature. I'm sure Josh will say it later on, but again, the Florida State loss was so good for them. They needed some adversity early. Kalen DeBoer has that team ready to go right now. And they have some tough schedule, as every SEC schedule is. But I think Alabama, before the end of the year, could potentially somehow be a top team. May get that number one ranking at some point if there's some losses that go their way. I could easily see Alabama heading into the college football playoff as the number one seed. So Dylan, I know you have a couple of things that you want to point out. So we'll give you the floor.
Well, we're almost an hour into this. I'll keep this as concise as possible. Ohio State, best team in country by wide margin. Bama, second best team in country. Miami, Indiana, A&M, still scared, still on edge, still waiting for them to burn me and wrong me at some point, because I know it's coming. I know it's going to happen. It's destined to happen. And certainly for Curt Cignetti, Google me. All I do is win. You know what? Big win this weekend. Happy for you. Win a playoff game. Then we'll talk. But Miami and A&M, in all seriousness, I am on fraud watch still. I do think Miami proved a lot to me, though, in that win over Florida State. Again, I seem to just have myself on an island in the bottom of the poll each and every week. And I actually called Justin because I was so disgusted with him. Because why the hell is Cincinnati above Nebraska? This goes for the AP poll. This goes for you idiots. Why is Cincinnati above Nebraska?
I had Nebraska ahead of them.
Nebraska beat Cincinnati. We always say, well, if they played head-to-head, we'd find out who's a better team. They played head-to-head. Nebraska won. We know
Cincinnati's resume is better.
I do want to say they did play in week one.
Dylan, why do you have Oklahoma ranked in front of Texas? They just played and Oklahoma lost. Therefore, Texas should be ranked ahead of Oklahoma.
Losses. Texas has 2 losses.
No, but they played.
Quarterback is a broken hand.
We've seen them on the same field. That means Texas should be above
Oklahoma. Different circumstances, Mr.
Oh, here we go. Now you pull out the ifs.
Cincinnati.
And the buts and the whats.
Okay, but what is Nebraska's best win?
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Who did Nebraska beat?
Why do we have Cincinnati above them?
Because their best win is better than Nebraska's. They beat a top 15 Iowa State team.
If a team beats you,
they beat Iowa State. They beat Kansas, who's got a lot of talent. And a good record.
We're freaking majoring in minors here, talking about the 23rd and 24th team, because you guys can't figure out the fact
You're
that
the one who brought it up.
Ranking of who the better team is, and Nebraska beat Cincinnati. Utah's back in. I'm very happy about that. USC's back in. I'm very happy about it. Most of the teams in this ranking could beat USF, and at some point, Byron Brown or whatever his name is, I'm gonna find out. They're my other fraud watch for my non-power forwards. But Memphis and UNLV
You're
are
such a UNLV lover that you can't see any.
I'm a UNLV lover, man. UNLV.
By the way, I went back and checked. I had Cincinnati ranked last week, and you didn't care that Nebraska wasn't ranked last week. But now this week, because
Nebraska
it made
back and wins, baby.
And so does Cincinnati.
They had the same record.
Who beat Cincinnati? Nebraska.
You
invalidate the credibility of this poll when you put a team that beat the other team below that team.
You're right. You know what? I'm gonna have some fun later, and I'll
rank Florida State. Rank Florida State ahead of Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
Florida State sucks.
I don't know if Texas should be ranked with 2 losses. That's just my point. But I think valid points. Again, I think we all agree 21 to 25 doesn't really matter that much to us. We care about the top 20 and especially the top 15. So I think that is how we'll leave our top 25 poll. Again, the tiers continuing to form, those top teams starting to continue to get going. And with that, we will get into our picks. Let's give you an update of the scoring from last week. Yeah, round of applause for Dylan Price.
No, he doesn't deserve one.
All he had to do.
He's still not winning.
All he had to do was pick his good friend Curt Cignetti to get a win, and he would have had a perfect 10 for 10 week. But shout out Dylan, he went 9 for 10. I believe he got his lock right. None of us got our long shots, so nothing to worry there. Dylan and Josh both got their locks. I did not get my lock. Justin did not get his lock, which was Penn State. So we did deduct a point. I want to make that noted. We did deduct a point from Justin because he picked them to cover minus 21.5, which is goes outside the boundaries.
They didn't even score 21.5 points.
Look, if I made a small sacrifice for the betterment of Penn State as a program from here on out, I'll take my deduction.
They were very on edge because you made them your lock on our podcast.
They did.
That was the nail in the coffin for James Franklin.
But overall, we had a good week as a group. Dylan went 9 for 10. I went 8 for 10. And then Justin and Josh both went 7 for 10. So
what about Grant? Putting Grant.
Grant went 0 for 0. Because Grant
he went 0 for 10. He made
0 for 10. Okay, Grant goes 0 for 10. So with that, we will give you an update. Oh, I didn't give you the point totals. My fault.
Unbelievable, man.
Hold on.
You got one
point
job.
Total. So Dylan gets the full 9 points. I lost my lock, so I get 7. Justin lost a point for his lock, so he is 6. And Josh got 8 total points for the week. So your updated total, Josh leading the way now with 32 points.
Stop the count.
Dylan, myself, and Justin all tied at 31. And our lead Corso Grant is at 25 after a no-show week. Record-wise, I continue to be in the lead at 35 and 15. Justin right behind me, surprisingly, at 32 and 18.
Oh, surprisingly. Thanks for taking that little shot at me.
I mean, you said
I turned myself around. I turned myself around this year because I stopped picking with my heart and I started picking with my brain, which might be worse.
Josh at 30 and 20 on his picks, and Dylan right behind him at 29 and 21. That 9 for 10 week is huge for Dylan. And Mr. Lee Corso Grant Sheets at 26 and 24 after not making his picks this week. So that is your week 7 recap. We will get into an exciting week. We got 5 ranked matchups this week and really 2 or 3 other really, really good matchups. So we'll go pretty quickly through these first 5, maybe 6, 7.
We always do that.
6, 7. Yeah, there you go. We'll try to go quicker because I know we're approaching an hour. But first matchup, Dylan, I already know who he's picking. It's UNLV at Boise State. What I want to say about this one, UNLV is 29th unofficially, but they are double-digit underdogs per FanDuel in this game. UNLV is tied for second in the nation in turnover margin at 9. They have Boise State has 14 consecutive wins at home. That's 4th most in active win streaks. And Boise State has beat UNLV in the last 2 Mountain West championship games. Dylan, we'll go to you quick with your pick in this one.
They don't make it easy on me. Each and every week is a absolute grind, and I feel like I'm on the edge of my seat. But I continue to ride, I continue to rock, I continue to roll with my Dan Mullen-led Rebels, future Penn State coach, once an Auburn assistant. Dan Mullen and the Rebels win, baby.
After fading UCLA and that not going well, Dylan has moved to the Rebels. Justin, who do you like?
Yeah, I have a stat for you guys that I wanted to bring up here in this scenario. The 2025 college football playoff teams that return their starting quarterbacks. None of the 5 teams are ranked that return their starting quarterbacks. They're 18 and 12 overall. That's a 600 winning percentage. They are 4 and 8, which is a 333 winning percentage in Power 4 games. Now, this isn't a Power 4 game for Boise, but they are one of the 5 teams that return their quarterback in Maddox Manson. And the starting quarterbacks, or the other side of the coin, is the 7 teams that brought in new quarterbacks. All 7 are ranked, 4 in the top 10. They're 35 and 7 overall, which is an 833 winning percentage, 19 and 7, a 731 winning percentage in Power 4 games. I wanted to bring that up because I have Boise State. They are going to right the ship here and get a 19th win for the 5 teams that returned their starting quarterbacks. Give me Boise State. More experience, and UNLV is bound to lose a game at some point because they've honestly deserved to lose like 10 games by now, and they've only played 6.
That's so weird. They only played 6. That math doesn't math. You know what, Dylan? I don't know what it is. I don't know what's in the water over there, but I'm running with your Rebels this week. I'll I'll go with you. I don't know. You talk,
Come on, Josh.
You talk a big game about Dan Mullen and those
dice.
dang Rebels. I feel it. I can feel myself becoming a Rebel passively. I like Rebels more than Broncos. I don't like Broncos, so go Rebels. I don't know.
Josh is
cool with your head. You could have just.
I'm drinking Dylan's Kool-Aid. I'm going with the Rebels.
Josh is feeling something in the air tonight, apparently.
I can feel it.
Yeah, there you go. I was waiting for it. I'm going to split this one. I'll take Boise State in this one. I like the stats that Justin just mentioned, but I do think home field advantage, especially on that big blue field that Boise State's got, is going to be
big blue. Go Giants.
Yeah. Okay. Cam
Scatterboo.
Love him, but he's got CTE. But I'm going to take Boise State in that one, and we will move on. Our next matchup is one that we debated even really putting on here, but I think it's a good matchup because both teams, Texas Tech, who is 6-0, and Arizona State, have some quarterback injury concerns right now. Sam Leavitt did miss the last game for Arizona State against Utah. That left Jeff Sims as their starting quarterback. And for Texas Tech, Baron Morton left the game early. Will Hammond came in as the backup, did play decently well, but could be some injury concerns for both starting quarterbacks in this matchup, Dylan.
I mean, this is do or die for State. They got to win this one if they want to stay alive in the playoff picture and within the conference. There's no route forward, and we find out that Cam Scatterboo, everywhere he goes, he wins, and he might have been a big piece of the juggernaut, and also probably has CTE from it in the juggernaut that was Arizona State a year ago. But there are teams you can get that must win against in this conference. It's not Texas Tech. Texas Tech is too good. I was talking to Justin earlier that somehow they have just kind of slid under my nose the whole year of I haven't really watched a lot of Texas Tech football. So what I did was watch some Texas Tech football. They're good. They're legit. They prove that you can build an entire team from the portal, spend a lot of money, spend my dollar on winning a conference. So, yeah, give me Texas Tech, the tortillas. Even though they don't want him to keep being thrown, I want to see him thrown in Arizona State.
Tortillas.
Justin?
Yeah, I mean, Joey McGuire is a coach that will probably find his way past Texas Tech and onto a bigger school at some point, being able to figure out the transfer portal like he has. And I think all you needed to really say in the intro to this game when you talked about the two quarterback problems was this is the second of 3 games that Texas Tech has had to go to Will Hammond for Baron Morton. They handled Utah with ease. All things considered, with Hammond in there, they did pretty well against Kansas with Will Hammond in there as well. This Arizona State team, I think, is clinging to this 4-2 record on, the improvement of Sam Leavitt, but then Leavitt goes and misses a game and Arizona State blows up. Either way, it doesn't matter. I think there's a big talent gap here. I have Texas Tech improving to 7-0, and they're kind of the Arizona State from a year ago. They are that team that's taken those reins in the Big 12.
Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm also going to take Texas Tech, right? It's kind of hard for me to go against them when I just, praised them in the AP poll that had them ahead of Alabama, who has looked like a top 4 team. But Texas Tech, again, double-digit wins in all their games this season, beat a very good Houston team a few weeks ago, dismantled Utah on the road, really in the fourth quarter. But like Justin mentioned, with Hammond at quarterback, not their normal projected starter, I don't see this Texas Tech team losing anytime soon. It's certainly not going to be against Arizona State. I do love Kenny Dillingham, just talked about when we talked about the replacement for James Franklin, but there is a huge talent discrepancy here, and the Red Raiders are going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to ride with Texas Tech too. I know in the past I picked Arizona State. They hurt me last week, so I'm not going to get hurt again. I think the interesting thing is with Arizona State is Sam Leavitt is the heart and soul of that team. He's listed as week to week coming into this game, which is a lot worse than day to day, clearly. So, I mean, we saw the same situation with Oklahoma and John Mateer. Even if Mateer comes back, and we'll talk about them next, it wasn't the greatest performance. I think there could be some issues with Sam Leavitt if he does come back this week in that same sense. So give me Texas Tech. As we just mentioned, number 14, Oklahoma is back in action, 5-1 after a loss to Texas. They're at South Carolina, who is 3-3. Both teams are coming off a loss. South Carolina lost to LSU. This is the second of 5 straight top 15 games for South Carolina. The big note from that Texas-Oklahoma game, though, was John Mateer coming back from injury and throwing 3 interceptions and no touchdowns. Dylan, who do you like?
I think there's definitely still big lingering injury. I mean, Mateer's an absolute warrior for the fact that he was able to come back that quick. I get it. It's the Red River rivalry. I get it. It's Texas, and that is a very bitter rivalry. I give him all the credit in the world for playing, but it might have been better to have Hawkins out there on Saturday. That was an ugly game, ugly performance from a Sooners team that I've been all in on this season. But I do think they bounce back. Give me Boomer
Sooner
over the Cox.
Justin.
Wow. Notice who didn't say Sooner here?
Oh,
yep. Here it goes.
Don't do it.
It is taking everything in me to not pick South Carolina. I did not like the way Oklahoma looked offensively or really defensively against Texas. They struggled there too. They made Arch Manning look like a good quarterback. I didn't know that was possible. And I think they rushed John Mateer back. And now in rushing him back, you also just shot his confidence. You shot whatever he had going prior to that game, because he goes and throws 3 interceptions, no touchdowns, and honestly just didn't look like himself one bit. This is an Oklahoma team that's supposed to rebound here. This is a South Carolina team. Lenora Sellers has, I think, 4 total touchdowns this season.
That would
from
be
the
correct.
Quarterback position. That's not good.
Is that a failed experiment?
Yes. But everything is telling me
that
regardless of this failed experiment, Shane Beamer is going to have South Carolina ready, because Shane Beamer, his seat is starting to get a little hot down in wherever South Carolina. Where do they play in South Carolina? Columbia, South Carolina. His seat's starting to heat up.
The only city down there.
Just like Billy Napier's. And you know what? I've got to stick with them. I picked them last week. They burnt me against LSU, and I don't give a crap. Give me South Carolina in this one. And give me Lenora Sellers to double his touchdown total. Yep, from 4 to 8 this week.
All passing or total?
No, total.
Okay.
Give me like 2 through the air, 2 on the ground. Let's make it an even split.
Okay.
Wow.
Josh?
I do give a crap that South Carolina let me down last week. I think Lenora Sellers looked terrible. I think that a lot of it wasn't necessarily his fault. I think that the offensive line of South Carolina has been letting him down this entire season, hence part of the reason that he was out with a concussion for a few games and why his touchdown total was at a whopping 4. But at the same time, this is an Oklahoma defense that's up there in terms of the LSU defense. I mean, they've kind of prided themselves on defense. I do also think, we all picked Texas to win that game last week, and we all said the same thing, that Texas' season was on the line. With or without John Mateer, Texas' season was on the line. Oklahoma could afford to lose that game and still be fine. And I think that's exactly what happened. I think they got that loss out of the way. I think regardless of Mateer's status, this is not a great South Carolina defense. They do normally find a way to have one of those upset wins every now and again. But those normally come in November. And I just think that John Mateer and Oklahoma are too good. And they're going to bounce back after that loss.
I would agree. I think Oklahoma gets a big win here. Obviously, you wish South Carolina was a ranked opponent, but I think South Carolina has had a lot of issues through their first 6 games. That's why they're 3-3. Oklahoma, that's a tough situation. I think if John Mateer is healthy, I think they do win that game. So I think John Mateer bounces back in this one in a big way. Give me Oklahoma. We will move on to the ACC, where there is an exciting matchup. Louisville is 4-1, and they are on the road to face number 2 ranked Miami, who is 5-0. Both teams coming off of a bye week. However, Louisville lost their last game. It was an overtime loss to Virginia, who we have inside our top 25 poll. I think we'll fly pretty quickly through this one. Dylan, who do you like?
Come back to me.
Justin, who do you like?
Something tells me that Dylan's going to go Louisville. Now he says come back to him. But for me, just Miami. They got too much going on their offensive side for this Louisville team. If you look at the point totals that Louisville's allowed to this point of the season, just looking at the 2 most recent games, 27 against 30 against UVA, 27 against Pitt. This is a Miami offense that's better than both of those teams' offense, with Carson Beck with a resurgence, Mark Fletcher, the running back, and obviously all the receivers. I have Miami in this one. Miami still hasn't left the state of Florida to play a football game, if I'm not mistaken. So that's on their side at this point.
There's something different about this Miami Hurricanes football team in years past, because I remember on one of the first episodes of this show that it's normally around mid-October when Mario Cristobal does Mario Cristobal things and loses a game that he should not lose. Happened last year against Georgia Tech, happened the year prior to that against Georgia Tech as well. But Carson Beck in this offense looks too good. I do like this Louisville team, but it's at home for Miami. They have looked like you could make the argument that they have the best resume in college football right now. And for good reason. They've played tough opponents. They've won. And yeah, that game against Florida State, I think the score was a lot less indicative of how the game actually played out. Miami was pretty much in control for a good chunk of that game and just kind of took their foot off the gas. I think there's, like Justin said, too much offensive firepower for that Louisville defense. So I've got Miami to go to 6-0.
Dylan, you want me to go real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take Miami as well. I thought this would be pretty easy. Miami's one of my top teams for a reason. They're at home. That is enough said. I think Miami gets the win over Louisville. I think Louisville is a good team, but I don't think they're good enough to beat Miami at the end of the day. Dylan, was that enough time to let you pick?
Skip me again.
Okay, Justin, we'll go back to you. And okay, Dylan, you're up now.
I don't know. I really don't. I have a sneaky gut feeling that this is the loss for Miami. This is the mid-October Mario Cristobal moment.
Then pick it.
But every time I've doubted the U this year, they've come through. So I'm gonna go with the U. Reluctantly cringing because I want to win this thing for the second year in a row, and I started to make ground up, and I don't want to lose it on a silly game like this.
I don't think this.
I'm just gonna say this may or may not swing your vote anywhere. This is on Friday. If anyone remembers Miami's last Friday game, they should have lost on a Hail Mary at the end of the game that took 6 minutes to review against Virginia Tech last year.
Louisville. I'm going Louisville. Screw it. I'm going Brom. I'm going the Cardinals. This is the Cristobal crash out. This is the Cristobal crash
Miller Moss.
The Virginia Tech mention really swayed Dylan.
I don't like
the Ender Sandman.
Move on.
All right, we're moving on. So Dylan's taking Louisville. We'll move on to another matchup. Number 12, Georgia Tech, who is 6-0. They're bowl eligible already, but they are not the favorite on the road against 4-2 Duke. This Duke team started slow, but they have really gotten it going. They've won 3 straight. They're 3-0 in ACC play. The winner of this game, based on schedules, could have a really good path to the ACC championship. So this is a big one for sure. Dylan, who do you like?
Again, this could be a trap game for Georgia Tech. And the Wade wackos get crazy out there sometimes. And it definitely is another one that I really have to hold back on because I want to do it. I want to go with the upset, but I love Georgia Tech. They've been one of my teams all year. Oddly enough, Duke was my dark horse team, but I think this pretty much will put an end to the Manny Diaz Penn State coach conversation with a loss. So I'm going to go with Georgia Tech and Brent Key because Haynes King doesn't lose games like these, or maybe he does. I don't know. I'm indecisive. Go Tech. Go Tech.
This is the same guy who picked Florida and felt so confident about it.
I went with Louisville. That's enough, right?
Yeah, but you felt so confident.
He had
about
a 1 week where he went 9-1. Now
Georgia Tech.
Okay. All right, Justin.
He's getting complacent.
Justin, I saw you rubbing your hands together.
Yeah, I had this little smile on my face because I love bringing up dumb arguments, right? You guys all know that by now. Georgia Tech's number 12 in the country. Someone tell me why. Someone enlighten me. Why wins against
They've won 6 games.
A 7-point win against Colorado.
That's a good win.
A 47-point win against Gardner Webb. A 3-point win against Clemson, who's inexistent now.
Okay, but that's a
21-point win against Temple. A 1-point overtime win against Wake Forest, and a 15-point win over Virginia Tech. That doesn't scream.
Virginia Tech, a very good team.
Yeah, okay. This is not a resume that screams number 12 team in the country, and that is going to be shown in a big way this weekend. This Blue Devils team looks completely different from when they lost back-to-back games to open their season. Darian Mensah, 15 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, not a failed experiment for Duke, even though I think early on a lot of people thought that it was. I have Darian Mensah leading Duke. And I think what Dylan said about how this will end Manny Diaz to Penn State rumors, nope, this is just going to heat it up a lot more. Because not only is this going to be a win, this is going to be a win by 14 or more points.
I'm crashing out right now.
Wow. Dylan, we cannot go back on your picks, man. Josh, go ahead.
Wow. Only 2 picks on the year for Darian Mensah. He's throwing 2 more this week, and I like this Georgia Tech defense a lot. I've been high on this Georgia Tech team. the entire season, they were my dark horse team to make it to the ACC championship. Yeah, obviously that win against Clemson doesn't look great now, but also like Oregon's win against Penn State doesn't look great. Alabama's win over Florida State doesn't look great, or Alabama's loss to Florida State actually looks terrible now because Florida State's lost 3 in a row. So I mean, you can't play the past narrative game. At the time, that was still a good. For you, it's fun. Yes. But at the time, that was still a good Clemson team. And again, same thing that we said about Penn State. Maybe that win that Georgia Tech had over Clemson is what broke the Tigers. It could have been what broke them, just like that Oregon game was what broke Penn State. Haynes King, he doesn't lose football games. He just doesn't lose unless he's not healthy, and he is healthy. And I think they're going to go into – I don't even know what Duke's field is. It's in the middle of nowhere.
The Wade Wackos.
Wade Wallace. They're going to Wade Wallace Stadium, and they're going to make them whatever. Wallace Wade Stadium. They're going to make them wail. They're going to have those Duke fans wailing by the end of the game because they're going to win. Georgia Tech's going to win by 2 scores, not Duke.
Spit it out, man.
Oh, my gosh. We're all better off when Josh finishes his picks. I'm going to give my pick. And you know what? Going into this, I was riding with Justin as well. No. I think Duke wins this matchup. I think Georgia Tech – I think Georgia Tech is in a trap game here. Georgia Tech seems like a team every year that's going to get into those trap games and not have success coming out of them. So give me Duke and Manny Diaz. I know, Justin. I wanted you to be a lone, a lone ranger on this one, but I had it on my notes that I was going to pick Duke, and I'm going to stick with it. So I'm going to take Duke in this one. I'm sorry, Justin. I'll let you have another one. Okay. All right. Let's move on to another SEC matchup.
A new SEC.
Number 10 LSU, who is 5-1 on the road to play number 17 Vanderbilt, who is also 5-1. Vanderbilt a chance to become bowl eligible for the 2nd straight season. This was a tight matchup last year in Baton Rouge. LSU only won by 1 touchdown. The defense this year continuing to impress for LSU. Diego Pavia struggled last year passing against these Tigers, but he did have some success in the run game. Definitely interesting matchup, Dylan.
Did you guys enjoy our trip to Nashville?
I did.
Did you know there was a Canes on
my bank account didn't. My bank account did not.
I certainly enjoyed the trip to Nashville. You know what one of my favorite parts was? When we did the bike tour. You know where the bike tour started? By the river. You know what you're going to see in the river on Saturday night when this game's over? You're going to see a goalpost in it, baby. Give me Vandy.
I thought you were going to say about the time when we heckled those poor players that were on the other team that Vandy was playing in baseball.
Oh. Kevin!
He transferred, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
He transferred. I saw his Instagram the other day.
He doesn't know we exist. But.
Justin, who do you got?
Oh, he knows who he exists.
We made sure of that.
LSU is bound for another loss, right? They are. They've lost to Ole Miss. They played a crappy SC team that I have winning this week.
You love contradicting yourself.
They played them horribly last night. They beat Southeastern Louisiana by only 46 points. Beat Florida by 10, Louisiana Tech by 16. This is an LSU team that hasn't moved that proverbial needle this season. But that being said, this isn't a Vanderbilt team that's really moved that needle for me either. You could look head to head. They both have South Carolina on their resume and Virginia Tech. Wow. Vanderbilt's win more impressive, but I don't see it this week. Vandy got knocked off their tracks by Alabama a couple weeks ago. And I think this is where we see Vandy kind of start to show its flaws. I have, what's the guy? Is it Whit Weeks, the one that always throws up each week?
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to vomit all over this Vanderbilt LSU stat sheet with a ton of tackles and crab. Just give me LSU.
And we'll hope Landry Kiffin is there to make him feel better.
Well, she's gonna have to because Vanderbilt's about to win by 3 touchdowns minimum. This LSU team has no offense. They're terrible. I think this is the last most overrated team left in college football. I don't really think I've seen this LSU team prove anything. You want to talk about a team that you talk about Georgia Tech, Justin, and you said, "Oh, I don't think this was like a record of a top 12 team." How is LSU's record that of a top 10 team? Oh, you beat South Carolina by 10.
It's not. And I could go into that one too, but we
don't have enough time.
I have a lot of faith or hope or grace in them that they're just going to win down in Nashville?
No, they don't
week?
win. But they don't win with grace. That's the problem. They're not winning with grace. They're struggling to the finish line. Vanderbilt is dominating their opponents. I love this Vanderbilt team. I love Pavia, and he's winning again.
Vanderbilt's dominating its opponents coming off a 16-point loss.
They're one loss of the season. Congratulations. They're at least beating their fodder teams by 70, unlike LSU. LSU can barely crack 35 points. Not only is that field goal post going in the river, but I'm going to message Kevin and say, go Commodores by the end of this day on Saturday.
I think Kevin might block Josh. I think Kevin might block him, but
I think I might already be blocked.
Valparaiso. Why are we talking about Kevin?
Yeah, what?
Did we pick the Valparaiso game this week?
I think Josh thought that he played for Vanderbilt.
No. I just missed Kevin, and we were in Vanderbilt when that happened.
Kevin! Yeah, I did play at Vanderbilt.
LSU, right hand Vandy.
If you didn't know, I played baseball at Vanderbilt for a tournament. But I'm going to pick LSU. I'm going to pick LSU in this one.
Stop siding with me.
Okay,
stop leaving me alone with Josh.
All right,
Dylan.
I'm going to be the bad guy this week. I'll pick LSU. I just think the defense is going to cause the Vanderbilt offense a lot of trouble. All right, this one I think is going to be a fun one for us to talk about. We got the Holy War, guys. This is the big noon kickoff game of the week. 23 ranked Utah, who's 5-1, at BYU, who's 15th ranked and 6-0 with the freshman quarterback. The first meeting of the Holy War was April 6, 1896. This is the 103rd meeting all time. Utah does lead the series by a lot, but BYU has won the last two matchups. So this is going to be an interesting one for sure. Dylan, who you got?
I've gone back and forth on this one too because it is in BYU and it's dicey.
You want me to go and make it easy?
Yes.
Yeah, I love to fade BYU, and their wins have been lackluster for me, specifically this past week against Arizona, heading into 2 overtimes with them. This is a Utah team that has one flaw in its resume against the number 7 team in the country. They have dominated all their other opponents. Their last 2, West Virginia and an Arizona State team that was number 19 in the country. I don't give a damn that Sam Leavitt got hurt prior to that game and missed it. This is Utah's game to lose, even on the road. Devin Dampier, love him at quarterback, good dual threat. I have Utah, and I don't even know. I don't really think it's up for grabs, but that's just my thoughts.
Josh?
I mean, honestly, I mean, I think a big reason BYU is ranked as high is because they're still undefeated. I think Utah's resume is overall better. I think that was a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter against Texas Tech before they just decided to completely fall apart in that fourth quarter. And Dylan, I don't know if this is going to help your talk, but you were a big Devin Dampier fan to start this year. You still are. Dylan, I don't know how this is such a tough conversation.
I don't think Dylan has felt confident with any one of his picks.
No, Vandy. I felt good about Vandy.
Because he did so well last week that he knows about the crap.
I know. He's scared.
Probably a problem for me because I picked the same as him. I'm going Utah. I love Utah. This game is a night game for BYU, and I think they're probably giving their version of their white out like they did last year.
They're Mormon out. They all show up as
Mormons.
No, that's every game.
That's all games. But yeah, I think I'm with Justin. This is Utah's game to lose. And I don't think it's really going to play like a true road game. I think they're just that much better.
Dylan, are you up or you want me to go?
It's all about the Utah. Give me Devin Dampier. I want to see more from this run game. But Kyle Whittingham doesn't lose a lot of games like this. And so I think he wins in Provo. I think Bear shows his youth a little bit in this one. I
think it's interesting. Dylan says he wants to see more from the run game. Does he know that Dampier had 120 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns in the last game?
Outside of Devin Dampier, I mean.
Okay.
That's my point.
Listen, 120 yards and 3 touchdowns is great, and you beat an Arizona State team that was without their starting quarterback. That's great. But they didn't beat somebody with their starting quarterback. At the end of the day, I think that's a huge thing to think about when you're looking at that result. I think BYU, that environment's going to be great. I'm going to ride with the Mormons in this one. I'm going to go against you guys.
Soak it in, Thomas.
This is the Holy War. It's only fitting that I picked the Mormons in this one. Give me number 47 to lead the way. We'll move on to another big rivalry. Number 20 USC 5-1 on the road to play number 13 Notre Dame, who is 4-2. USC has not had success against Notre Dame. Notre Dame leads 52-37-5 all time. Notre Dame has won the last 2 matchups, but hey, they can't afford another loss. And this could be potentially the last tough test for Notre Dame on the year. So, Dylan, who do you like?
We're at a point of the season where a lot of teams have reached the point of no return, where you lose this game, this is it. And I think that's kind of where Notre Dame's at right now. USC does have a little bit of give. They do have a little bit of leeway. They do have Nebraska on the docket, but that's in Lincoln. They do have they still have Oregon on the docket. There's games that scare me for USC, and I think USC is going to really have to grit their teeth if they want to be a playoff team. I think they have the talent to be a playoff team, but I also think that Notre Dame is, in their 2 losses, they were close. They gotten better as time has gone on. CJ Carr looks legit. Jeremiah Love's finding his rhythm again. The defense is flying around. I get scared about banking with Notre Dame on this one. I really do. I went into this thinking I was going to pick USC, but I like Mayava. I like this USC team. I think they have the makeup to be a playoff team. Unfortunately, though, I think you're going up against a Notre Dame team that's more well-balanced, unfortunately better coached, even though I like Lincoln Riley. And for Notre Dame, they've reached the point of no return. The rest of the way, Boston College, Navy, Pitt, Syracuse, and Stanford. You can win out. You can make the postseason, and you can get back to the dance. You can be back in the same spot you were in a year ago. USC needs to prove it. I would love to see USC win. I would love to root for the upset just because I think it'd be fun, and I like chaos in college football. But at the end of the day, Notre Dame, it's in South Bend. It's at night. This is a Notre Dame team that's only gotten better since getting smacked in the mouth in the first couple weeks. I think they bounce back with a massive win. This is their statement win of the season. Is it going to be enough to make the playoff? We'll wait and see. But this is their statement win of the season. They beat the Trojans. Give me the Irish.
Justin?
Oof. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go one bit with this game, because you look at the Notre Dame offense, 465 yards per game, 21st in the FBS. Their passing is 19th. CJ Carr, like Dylan said, has really improved as the season's gone on. Really, I don't think improve's the right word, but found his footing is probably the better word for a guy starting in his first year. But this Notre Dame defense hasn't been the defense that it was last year. They lost Al Golden going to the Cincinnati Bengals, their defensive coordinator. And this defense ranks 105th in pass defense against a team in USC who is second in the nation in pass offense. But you also have to look at some of the teams that USC has done it against and what they've done. And to me, the one game this season that would be, kind of comparable to this one is the Illinois game. And USC lost that game to the Fighting Illini, and they've been in that close game. But I just trust Notre Dame a little bit more here. Their defense has to come to play, though, because if they don't, this won't be close. This will be a USC offense that goes running, passing, whatever, all over. It's really on this Notre Dame secondary to come out quick, and they got to be healthy because they've battled injury a lot in their secondary. I still have the Fighting Irish, but, this is a coin flip for me, and part of me wants to switch right now and go to USC. So you know what? Never mind. I'm going with the Trojans. This is gonna be. No, I'm sticking Notre Dame.
Whoa.
Never mind.
Flip flop.
I can't do it. I should have let Josh and Thomas go first, but I'll stick Notre Dame.
Well, okay, I'll give you this option. Josh and I will go, and we'll give you a last second choice. Dylan will give you a last second choice on what was it? Louisville or who was?
We gave him the one on Louisville, Miami. We gave him that one. Yeah.
So if you want to, we'll give you guys both the option. Okay. But Josh, we'll get to your pick here.
You boys know that I've been pretty critical of this Notre Dame team a lot this season, especially after those first 2 games. I think they've finally gotten the run game going. I think it's great to see clearly the best backfield in college football because of the fact that Penn State's backfield just doesn't really exist besides Katron Allen. Here's the problem, though. This is a USC team that finally has a run defense. They're top 30 in the nation in terms of rushing yards against per game. And I do like CJ Carr, but if it turns into a game where it has to become an offensive shootout involving the passing game, I'm picking Jordan Mayaba every day of the week, and I'm picking that USC offense every day of the week. Their one loss coming on a last-second late field goal on the road. I love this USC team. Jaden Mayaba. My apologies. Me when I don't know anybody's name. But my point still stands. Jaden Jordan doesn't matter. That man can sling the rock, and he slings it a little bit better than CJ Carr, especially if it's going to be a USC defense that is going to spend a good chunk of its time trying to bottle up the 2 best running backs in college football. And they've done a good job of doing that against their other opponents so far this season. So I'm going with the upset. partially because I love Jada Mayava so much. I also am anti Notre Dame. I still don't think that they really are as good. They could prove me wrong, but I have to go against the grain and pick the Trojans.
I like both teams. I really do. I think USC is really good. I think Notre Dame is continuing to prove that those two losses are, they're not great losses on their resume, but they're to good teams, and Notre Dame can compete with them. So I think Jeremiah Love is the X factor in this game. Obviously, I mean, you mentioned it, Josh. USC's run defense has been better, but they haven't had to face one of the top running backs, if not the top running back in the country. I think Notre Dame, to Justin's point, if the passing yards, if Notre Dame gets down, they won't be able to really keep up with USC. I think that's true. But if Notre Dame controls the ground game, runs the clock, USC won't be able to be on the field to throw for that many yards. So give me Notre Dame to kind of run the ball really well and to control the clock here in this one. Justin, I'll give you the chance right now. You get yes or no if you want to change your pick from USC to Notre Dame, or just tell us who you're picking right now.
Yeah, I ended it by saying Notre Dame. I'm going to stick with Notre Dame here. I'm not going to side with Josh. That's too scary for me.
And Dylan, Louisville and Miami, you said you didn't feel good about it. Do you want to change? We'll give you the option.
I'm a man of my word.
Okay. All righty. With that, we will move on to our top two games here. This is the first of two SEC matchups. Number 11, Tennessee, 5-1. At number 6, Alabama, who's continuing to surge, also 5-1. Alabama's not lost to Tennessee at home since 2003. That was the year I was born. I believe all of us besides Dylan.
Okay. All of us besides Justin.
I'm 02.
There you go.
I'm 02.
Oh, wow. He's old. But it is a homecoming. Yeah, there you go. It's a homecoming for Heisman favorite, I think we can say. Ty Simpson, he grew up in Martin, Tennessee. Alabama in SEC play, all 3 wins.
In Alabama, there's no homecoming here.
Well, homecoming against a team. Homecoming against a team that he grew up watching. That's what I meant to say. Okay. Sorry. I messed it up in my notes. It's okay. All 3 wins for Alabama in SEC play have been ranked. Tennessee's offense, though, could be a big key in this game. 4th in yards per game, 7th in passing yards, and the top scoring offense in the country. That's all I got. Dylan, who do you like?
Bama's one of the 2 best teams in the country, in my opinion. How's business doing? It's moving for Bama right now. Defensively, if this gets into a smash mouth, traditional SEC style football game, I've got Bama. If this gets into a shootout, if we start seeing a true gunslinging affair between Joey Aguilar and Ty Simpson, I've got Bama. So at the end of the day, black hoodie, white hoodie, red hoodie, gray hoodie, doesn't matter what he's wearing, doesn't matter how you cut it. Any day, business is booming, Bama's booming. Give me Bama.
That was a bar. I'm not going to lie. That was awesome. Pretty good. That was pretty good. Justin, go ahead.
I'm here all week.
Yeah, the thing Dylan said that I disagreed with, he said if this game becomes, a defensive-minded game, it won't, because this Tennessee defense flat out sucks this year. They let up 31 points against Arkansas this past week, a 3-point win that their offense bailed them out for. They went to overtime against Mississippi State, allowing 34 points, 24 against UAB, who fired Trent Dilfer today. UGA, they allowed 44 points against. This is a Tennessee defense that has been ripped apart in many different ways, and this is an Alabama offense that is rolling. Yeah, they're not putting up gigantic offensive numbers, but they get the job done time and time again. This is a Tennessee defense. Like I said, it's allowing offenses to look better than they do. So even if this Alabama offense is a 27-point per game offense, which it's about a 27-point per game offense in the games that matter, it's going to be a 34 or 40-point offense this week. I have Alabama. They are one of the 2 best teams in the country, and Kalen DeBoer. I think everything's going to work out at Alabama with Kalen DeBoer.
Josh,
I didn't mention Jam Miller, guys.
Oh, now you did.
You almost got killed in that game.
Yeah, you almost died the other day.
Yeah. I said this. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, but again, I mean, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, Thomas. That Florida State loss was the best thing that happened to Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I'm going to keep saying that because I don't know the next time they're going to lose a football game. And certainly not going to be to a Tennessee team that just gave up 30-plus points to a dead-in-the-water Arkansas Razorbacks team at home, by the way. This game is going to be a bloodbath for Alabama. And if my marketing director, social media guy, Jacob Holmes, is watching this, which he never does, but he sees our graphic on Instagram. He's going to ask why I'm not picking Tennessee. It's because they just gave up 30+ points to the Razorbacks. So Alabama by 1 million.
Yeah, I mean, Roll Tide in this game. I'm taking Alabama as well. I'm a big Ty Simpson fan. Obviously, I mean, Alabama won that game last week against Missouri, and Ryan Williams didn't have a catch. So that just shows how versatile this Alabama offense is. Ryan Williams, I would expect him to get a lot more involved in this Tennessee game and in the rest of the season. But I'm going to go.
Call it the third Saturday in October. We haven't mentioned that yet.
Yes,
I just
wanted to sorry about that. Apologies.
Unbelievable.
But yes, I think we're all going to ride with Alabama in this game. And that will move us to our final game, our game of the week. Number 5, Ole Miss, who is 6-0 on the road to play number 9, Georgia, who is 5-1. College Game Day is in Athens for the 11th time. Georgia has won when College Game Day has been there the last 7 times. Ole Miss, a win, but a little bit of a scary win, 24-21 over Washington State. Georgia beat Ole Miss 52-17 in Athens in 2023. Ole Miss repaid the favor 28-10 in Oxford last year. The Rebels won. Kirby Smart and Lane Kiffin, obviously, they know each other well. They worked at Alabama together during the 2014-2015 season. That was a loaded coaching staff. If you haven't checked out that staff, make sure to go look that up. And this is only their 3rd time meeting as head coaches, which I think is interesting. Ole Miss, Georgia. Dylan, who do you like?
Right now in New York, we are in a nor'easter. So I think this is blocking us. So I get this off as quick as I can. And when they say when it rains, it pours. And right now for Ole Miss, the scares have been raining down. It's been a couple weeks in a row of some dicey games and some games that have left you on the edge of your seat and made you wonder, is Ole Miss legit or are they, well, the other word. And so it's got you kind of wondering if maybe we'll see a loss rain down soon. But we've certainly seen the points rain down. And they say when it rains, it pours, baby. Oh. And good old Luke Combs is going to be out there this weekend in Athens. Bailey Zimmerman's going to be out there this weekend, presumably to sing their song together, backup plan that they have. Right now, if Lane needs a backup plan, I hear Happy Valley's hiring. So throw that out there. But again, I go back to my initial point. There's a nor'easter going on. When it rains, it pours. And right now, there's been a lot of scares raining down for Ole Miss. There's been a lot of points led up by that defense. And Georgia's a tight ship. They run a tight ship. And everything Kirby does, pretty much everything he touches turns to gold, except this year's team. So when it rains, it pours. Well, when it rains, I don't know if it's going to rain at all on Saturday. I don't know what impact Luke Combs is going to have. I don't know what impact the nor'easter has, but I had that picture on my phone already because of the Catskills news. But one thing I do know is going to be true. Lane Kiffin rises to the occasion in this game. He doesn't always fare well against ranked teams. He has a losing record against ranked teams. It's on the road. It's in Athens. But you could put Luke Combs there. You could put the rain there. You could put whatever you want there. And I got Ole Miss. This is Rebels team's legit. The scares have only made them battle tested. Bulldogs team isn't as good as they've been in years past. So give me Kiffin. When it rains, it pours, baby.
Man, somebody get Lane Kiffin some hair gel there. That was not the greatest look from him there.
Bad look.
Yeah. Oh man. Wow. He looks a little disheveled, Dylan. I don't know, but you're gonna ride with Ole Miss. Justin, who do you like?
Yeah, Dylan, you mentioned this nor'easter, and I'm just so confused because it's not near Easter.
God.
That's
right.
awful.
No, Josh, your pick for Ole Miss and Georgia.
Yeah, look, I don't want to agree with Dylan, but there's just something about the fact that Kirby Smart doesn't know the difference between a clap and a timeout, and so because of that, I don't think he's gonna clap too many times and not call a timeout because Ole Miss is gonna be up 21-0 after 5 minutes. I love this Ole Miss team. They beat LSU. They're gonna go in to Athens. They're going to win on the road. It's going to be 2 straight losses at home for Georgia for the first time in a millennium. And Ole Miss is going to be a top 4 team in the country. I love Lane Kiffin's football squads. They have not left me down except for every other year that they do. But this year is different. I have faith in the Rebels.
Hope.
Oh, man. You kind of sound like a Yankees fan. But anyway, with the
you cannot call a Pirates fan a Yankees fan. That's worse.
We'll go to the actual Yankees fan. We'll go to Justin, assuming he's calmed down again, back on track.
You guys didn't like my joke, I take
No,
it.
no.
Speaking of the Yankees, always go listen to our other
Yes.
podcast, Bomber Boys, because this is the Bomber Boys media outlet.
Which
But
isn't free, as Thomas
which
found
isn't
out.
free, as Thomas
Hey.
and Josh found out.
Hey, maybe we moved to Zoom.
I knew it wasn't.
You guys
Thomas had no
are
idea.
You guys were really cute with all your rain and your pouring down and all these
That was
blah blah blahs and
I didn't
blahs.
say a single word about rain.
And Josh, you were
Called you
really
cute,
cute
Dylan.
Josh, you were really cute when you said that Ole Miss has let you down every other year except for whatever reason this year.
No,
This
I
Ole
said
Miss
they've never let me down except for every other year.
Yeah, and they're going to let you down again this year because this is an Ole Miss team that they've struggled in these wins. We've talked about how LSU isn't that great of a team. They beat LSU by 5. They beat Wazoo by 3. They beat Arkansas by 6, Kentucky by 7. It's been close game after close game. And look, I love Ole Miss. They were my preseason SEC champion, or at least going to the championship. And this game goes a long way in deciding that. Trinidad Chambliss has been great since taking over the quarterback spot. But Trinidad Chambliss hasn't faced a defense like the Georgia Bulldogs. He hasn't made mistakes that have proved costly. He has 1 interception this year, and he is going to have multiple this week. And Kejuan Lacey's been great coming over and running hard, but same type of deal. This is a team that hasn't faced this type of defense, and they still have struggled to consistently put out offensive efforts. Go to the Georgia side of things. Gunnar Stockton, I mean, he feels like he's still due for a huge game. This is a Georgia team that's kind of had, I don't want to say lackluster. Stockton's been good, but they're waiting for that like big moment. He's only got 6 touchdowns on the year so far. This is a Georgia team that defensively will carry them just like they did against Auburn. Their offense will get enough done. I think Stockton might even have his coming out performance in which he cements himself towards the top of the college football world. I love Lane Kiffin. I love Ole Miss. It was all cute and whatever that you guys did, but this game's being played at Georgia. This is Georgia's game to lose. Give me the Bulldogs. You guys all see that new commercial where that guy barks at his boss, the Georgia Bulldog bark? I'm personally not going to bark because I don't want that out there on the internet. But just think about me barking, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay. So we got a Georgia pick and 2 Ole Miss picks. Listen.
Don't side with me. Don't side with me. Don't side with me.
Georgia had their home win streak snapped, right? 33 in a row, I believe was the number, against Alabama. And that was a tough game. Do I think Alabama is better than Ole Miss? Right now, I would probably say yes. I think it's definitely a debate. I think the Ole Miss is really good. They have shown a lot. This game is honestly a coin flip. I think, it can go either way. Georgia has, shown that they can lose at home, despite what most people may think. But losing at home twice in a season, unfortunately, Justin, I have to side with you here. And I think I'm going to pick the Dogs. I think Georgia comes, back to Athens and gets a big win. Do you want to?
No.
Okay. No, but I think Georgia gets a big win here over Ole Miss, and I think the SEC is going to come down to some really good games at the end of the year to see who makes that SEC championship. So give me Georgia to split the field in that. And we will go to our final segment here. I know we're approaching 2 hours, so we'll try to keep this quick. But this was a huge episode, obviously, with the headline of James Franklin. But
Dylan,
we will go. Yeah,
What?
we'll go to our locks, and we'll start with Dylan, who probably doesn't know what that is. But go ahead.
So which one's the lock and which one's the long shot?
Oh my gosh.
Tulane plays Army this week. And while I love our military and while I will always support them, I unfortunately had to fade them last week when I picked UNLV against Air Force. And unfortunately, I'm going to do the same thing again this week with Tulane against Army.
Dylan hates the United States.
Okay, I don't hate the United States. Let's not put that propaganda out there. I don't hate the military. I love our troops, respect our troops. But I also think a green wave might be taking them out this weekend. Give me Tulane. They're my lock.
Okay, Justin.
I messed up the lock big time last week. It's between 3 and 14 points.
Yeah, we're not doing any of these
not
21.
21.
Although clearly 21 points is not enough for some teams.
Yeah, clearly that didn't work out for me last week. Look, I hate Texas. I really do. And I don't like Arch Manning. I don't think he's good, but they're coming off a momentum-building win over Oklahoma. They're favored by 11.5 on the road against Kentucky. This is a Kentucky team that's in all sorts of shambles. Give me Texas here as my lock of the week.
Josh?
This is a team that I picked, I believe, to be my long shot last week. Is that what I did? Hold on, I'm double checking. No, it was a week prior, and they did not. Okay, never mind. I actually don't know. Anyways, Woke versus Coke, the Coke boys. Cal. They're playing Chapel Bill, and it's very obvious that Chapel Bill is a failed experiment. I think we can all agree on that, just like Jackson Arnold. Now we've come to that conclusion.
Oh, thank God. We didn't spend an entire show arguing about it last week for no reason.
Shut up. Cal is somehow only favored by 10.5 at home against a UNC team that might be the most dead in the water football team besides 0-7 Oregon State right now. So Cal by 1 million.
I'm going to pick an ACC team, Clemson. I'm going to take them minus 9.5 against SMU. Clemson obviously has not looked great this year, but they have stacked a couple of big wins. Their defense is starting to play well. So give me Clemson at home against SMU. That's big for me. So Dylan, we'll go to you for your long shot.
You already know what it is. They're the underdog.
Oh, no.
And I'm doubling down, baby, because it didn't burn Justin bad enough last week. Give me UNLV as my long shot. I'm doubling down on them. Give me the Rebels.
Justin?
Yeah. Honestly, I lost my long shot.
Go with Penn State. Do it. You know you want it.
They're favored still.
They're favored.
Oh,
Give
wow.
me no. What's the long shot? It's 3+.
Yeah, any underdog.
Yeah.
Any underdog. This is one that I don't. No, I'm going to go to the one that I saw originally. Kent State is an underdog by 25.5 against Toledo. And I know what you guys are saying. Justin, you're wasting your pick. This is a Kent State team that just demolished UMass. And I know you're like, well, it's UMass.
They're the worst team in college football. They should demolish.
Does UMass have a win?
You're right. Let me just go Washington plus 5. Washington plus 5.5 against Michigan. I really just wanted to see your guys' reaction to me picking another stupid pick. Washington's looked actually really good this year. Michigan coming off a bad loss, but Bryce Underwood has been nothing short of a struggle this year. Maybe a failed experiment in some people's eyes. But I don't know. Just give me Washington here.
Josh.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Well,
I'm going to read you the long shot.
You cannot be saying anything. I'm going to stick in the SEC. I think we talked about, or I think I've mentioned this team a few times, that Mississippi State is, I think, one of the more underrated 2-loss teams in college football, and they're somehow not favored against DJ Lagway. Yeah, it's in Eugene, but no run Eugene. What am I saying, dude? I'm on 2 hours of sleep in the last.
It's in Gainesville.
It's in Gainesville, which doesn't sound anything like Eugene. Wow. I'm on 2 hours of sleep.
Opposite sides of the state or of the country.
Of the state. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Eugene, Florida. Go Ducks.
Oh my God.
More cowbell.
Give me more cowbell. I got nothing more. Mississippi State. Yeah, I need to go to bed, dude.
So Justin and Josh have taken the top 2 long shots that I had written down. Luckily, I did put 3 down, so I have another one.
Kent State.
No.
I'm gonna.
I think I picked them earlier this year against Pitt and got a big win. So I'm gonna try my luck with them again. West Virginia is plus 7.5 on the road at UCF. I think UCF played well this past week, but I think they're a little bit fraudulent. So give me my chances with West Virginia on the road against UCF, and that will wrap up another episode of Locks and Long Shots.
We're not going to guess the game day picker. I thought we were finally going to do that. I had a whole bit ready for it.
I don't think any of the rest of us have any idea who's going to be the guest picker.
Well, you know how
I
we
have a
talked about
guess.
rain earlier? Rain makes corn. Corn makes whiskey. Whiskey makes my baby get a little bit frisky. Luke Bryan's going to be the guest picker. It's got to be. It's got to be.
We'll do this. We'll go around for fun here. This won't be for points or anything.
Whatever.
Josh, who do you like?
Megan Maroney. That's just like the only country artist I know.
Good pick. Good pick.
Justin, do you have any idea?
Where's the game day this week?
Last year it was Cody Rhodes in there.
Where is it this week? It's in Athens, someone said.
Catch up.
Yeah.
So this is where we do the long shots.
Get back to me in a second.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta figure this out too. Let me.
Well, don't worry. We only gone an hour and 50 minutes, so just take your time.
Yeah, let's see.
I consolidated my bit because I still wanted to do it, and I didn't think you guys would actually do it. And now here we are with dead air.
Do it. Do the full thing then. Do the full thing.
Go ahead.
I said it already. The rain makes.
No, just do it.
Start singing Megan Maroney songs.
Now, Tennessee Orange.
Is that? I don't know. I haven't heard her music.
Speaking of Luke Combs, what a tour, man. Guys, I'm floundering. Can you guys give
me a Georgia football player on either the Baltimore Ravens or Buffalo Bills because they're off.
Yeah, give me give me
Roquan Smith.
Yeah, give me Roquan Smith. I'll take him.
You know what?
Former Bear Roquan Smith.
James Cook.
Oh, there you go. All right, there's our pick. Okay.
This will be a one and done segment.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it more next week. We'll try to spice things up as this goes on. But that's another edition of Locks and Longshots. We hope you enjoyed this loaded week of college football. 5 ranked matchups on tap, and overall a really good slate. And we'll be back next time here on Locks and Longshots.